Hey, welcome back one last time. This is Dr. Tom Kubistant, and I'm recording this at the end of August 2022. Starting in January of this year, I sought to put on video the major perspectives, principles, tactics, techniques, common problems, ways to overcome that of how to perform at your best. I hope I have succeeded on this. I know that many of you who have contacted me say you've just clipped in to one video that looked interesting to you. We're going to use this session as a summary of what we have covered. First of all, thank you to you for viewing these. By the very fact that you have found me and the very fact that you've viewed one or more of the individual videos of this series says that you're interested in your own self and improving yourself. There's such joy to be found in improving yourself, into tapping into yourself, to reaching some of your dreams, or at least going closer to your dreams. This process is never ending. Pablo Casals, the famous Spanish cellist, said at 94 years old, he was finally starting to understand playing the cello. That's mind-boggling to me. He said his fingers don't work as well anymore, and he was finally understanding the cello more. If one of the great virtuosos in music can say it's a never-ending process, your own pursuits in your own performance area, whether it's performing arts or a sport or even business or being a student or being a parent, is an ongoing process of which you start identifying, working on, and improving. So it's a spiraling process after a while. The last 4 videos of this 200 level series, you've learned how to succeed, learn how to achieve some outcomes, learn how to win, if you will. Hopefully a lot of those made sense, not only in those 4 videos, but in the whole 35 video series. From the level 100 to the level 200 series, I am aware that I shared with you a tremendous amount of information. It's my belief that I would rather have that information out there for you to pick and choose and ruminate and practice at your own pace than to keep on searching and not knowing what's out there. By the very fact that you've reached this final video of the series, the 35th of them, that you probably got a handle on more of the things you need to be, you need to exude, need to do. I wanted to share with you, when we're talking about competition and winning and successful outcomes, a handout I made for the psychology human performance courses that comes true. I called it true competition. Is that I said that competition is a hardening, a tempering, if you will, of the performance lab of all of those principles, practices, experiences that you have been forging in your own lives. That true competition for me is the want, and even some cases the need, to put it all out there. Sometimes we have to leave the safe harbors of familiarity, of comfort, to really extend ourselves with the possibility of disappointment or failure, and that's the only way to improve. True competition is to test and challenge yourself continually. True competition is the desire to win, the desire to excel, the desire to achieve, the desire to succeed, not so much beating somebody, but the desire to prove some things to yourself. The true competition is to have positive outcomes reinforce your efforts, that you knew you were doing the right things in the right ways to gain, hopefully, the right results. True competition for me is learning how to rise to the occasion. Roger Federer was always a remarkable tennis performer for me. I loved seeing him play. He was always practiced what we talked about in the last video, this willingness to tie your opponent. And then at the end of every set, he would cut it and into another level of really elevating his game. You can do this in the midst of the competition. It's based on the bedrocks of what we've covered in this level 100, level 200 series. The true competition is to continually contend and put yourself in position to win. True competition, and it's part of your own formula, is knowing your own end game, how to close the deal. And that takes experiences and skills. True competition is even to struggle and to strive, and learning how to get bloodied, as the old boxers say, in order to stimulate you to keep on delving into it. Learn how to gut it out, learn how to save a performance. We talked about A performances, B level performances, C performances. Some of the performances that most good master performers are proud of are the C performances that they resurrected what was turning out to be a disaster and ended up with a C performance or a B minus performance. They were much more proud of their efforts because they had to work harder. True competition is learning how to reach down into yourselves, connect those things, and allow those things to come out in a fluid, integrated manner. As such, you come face to face with yourself. The best athletes, the best performing artists, the best business people, and parents are ones who are honest with themselves. They don't delude themselves. They don't live by any kind of delusions or expectations. They are honest with themselves. True competition is to reveal and apply your character. You don't have to be a sculptor or a painting artist to throw in your character. Every one of us has our own individual game that we need to play to our strengths by playing within ourselves. To ask ourselves questions about the performance, ask ourselves questions about ourselves in the midst of the performance and find the answers. And all of these encompass what I call the will to win. It is fun. It is energizing along the way that you can do it. Oh my goodness, my profound thanks and appreciation, not only to you, but to YouTube to allow me to have this channel that I can share these things with you. You see, all throughout my own long careers in human performance, I always sought to be not so much as an expert or a theoretical expert. My major role was to be a translator, to translate the things I was working on or things other people were working on in a way that was allowed people at all skill levels, all performance backgrounds, an opportunity to easily apply things. So I was a translator for these things. I always viewed what we've covered in this series of all the information as being three things: comprehensive, systematical, sequential, and practical. And that is what I have found over the years, the best way to maximize yourselves. Many of you, I know, just logged on to one of the 200 level videos that it seemed interesting to you, and then you address those things. Now that you maybe address some of these things and know how to handle speech anxiety or overcome a writing block or learn how to cope with pressure and to use pressure for your own benefit, you may want to start branching out from there and looking at some of the other elements I've covered. Look what we've covered. First of all, in the 100 level series, which were the key principles, theories, perspectives about human performance. Remember, the best, most consistent and adaptive performers know about these principles, from looking at the myths, looking at my 7 principles of human performance, looking at your personality, looking at how to address after you're aware of your fears, learning how to learn, learning how to retain skills, and then learning how to seek the output of those skills, learning how to purposely practice or rehearse with intention, looking at your own commitment to your own mental health and an own balanced life. Look at what we've covered in the 200 level series. We've looked at self-talk and transforming negative self-talk put-downs to positive build-up affirmations. We learn how to transfer your performance areas from the practice area into the performance. We looked at some specific things of what I call mental sticking points, those low ebbs that mysteriously appear somewhere in the last third of a performance. We looked at performance anxiety, how to cope with adversity. We looked at specifically some concentration practices, how to expand your concentration so it becomes more detailed and more enduring. We looked at the new definitions of mental strength and mental toughness. We've looked at how to handle pressure. We looked at even some specific things. If you're a poor soul afflicted with the yips, some things to overcome your yips. We looked at both the twin notions of how to deal with slumps and how to ride the crest of the wave during a good section, during a streak. Then finally, we looked at a lot of the things on how to achieve some positive outcomes. That's a lot of stuff. Why I said it here in YouTube is that it's set for you to come back to it whenever you not so much need to, but when you want to. And if you come back to these videos, either going through the whole 100 series of the 14 videos in that sequence, because that makes the most sense of following that sequence from 101 to 114, going through that sequence, it will make a lot more sense. If you wait for it to become a need, you're just putting a Band-Aid on a problem. And the Band-Aid may resolve the problem, but it's not integrated into your overall performance area. One of my, on a side note, in the early 80s, I wrote 3 books that are now out of print that I called the Human Performance Trilogy. The first one was, of course, Performing Your Best. The second one was a more specific one, Mind Pump, the Psychology of Bodybuilding. The third one was Mind Links, the Psychology of Golf. For those of you who collect books, here's a little secret about this book. The first printing of it, what I did is I numbered the first 100 level copies of that. And then I also signed it, made an embossment of it. So if you ever come upon one of the first 100 copies of it, to my mind, they are rare indeed. All 3 of these books still can be found at various times on Amazon, even though I heard the prices are going up on it. Hopefully those will make sense. If you never read any of the books, that's fine. Just viewing these videos are important enough. It will give you more than enough information about the psychology of human performance. Here's one thing I want to read to you from one of my favorite authors, who is, you've probably been aware of, Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Illusions and the Bridges Across Forever, in his book called The Messiah's Handbook, Reminders for the Advanced Soul. He came up with some things that were not originally intended to look at human performance, but can be applied. Here's what he said from The Messiah's Handbook. To learn anything, you must put aside the safety of your ignorance. Some of us are enclosed with our ignorance, doing it the same old inappropriate ways forever. You have to put aside that ignorance and the ego that goes along with the ignorance to push yourself beyond. You are never given a wish with also being given the power to make it true. However, you may have to work for it. You learn most when playing against an opponent who can beat you. When you live by the highest you know, the outcome of the game doesn't matter. However, it comes out right for you in that place and time. Can you leave every practice, every performance saying, that's the best I could have done in that situation, and see what you can do better next time? And then finally, you are a game-playing, fun-having creature. You are the otters of the universe who are playful. One thing you will learn if you're in a performance area or a sport, You will have different relationships with that performance area or that sport. Early on, it may be competition and winning. Later on, it may be having different relationships with it. When you can't play at that high level anymore, you're teaching or coaching, excuse me, or researching different things, that you will have different relationships with it. And some of the ideal sports, ideal performance areas are broad enough, expansive enough to give you those opportunities to keep on being associated with that sport, with that performance area. So again, congratulations for finding me on YouTube, for viewing some of the videos, either one or two that you needed to, or the complete 35 video series. Hopefully, you'll be able to be a better performer, more accepting and balanced person from this, who can contribute to her or his own performance area, but also to contribute to your sport or performance area and contribute to society. We need that more than ever. I am surprisingly sad this is the last time I will be doing this, because I don't know where I'm going in my life, how much longer I'm going to be living. But I wanted to have this stuff recorded for you to view at your own time, in your own way. At some point, if I'm able to, and if there's a need to, I may create a 300 level series based on your needs, based on your feedback. But for right now, this is happy trails to you, that your performance area, I've said this many times, is a laboratory from which you experiment and craft the things. The more systematic, scientific you become in your own performance area, the more it starts evolving into an art. You become the kind of person people marvel at, of how easily you come out with integrated high-level performances. That's our ultimate goal. If you're a thinker or feeler, learning how to be both, becoming a thinker and a feeler, depending on what the occasion demands for it. There'll be a sense of satisfaction for you to gain some mastery, to gain some control, to view failures and disappointments more productively, and to keep on striving. We need to keep on striving. My last thing I want to read to you is something that I wrote for the end of my the third generation of the psychology human performance courses that I taught at Western Nevada College in Carson City, Nevada. And I'm always appreciative that they gave me the opportunity to do the second generation and the third generation of the courses. As much as I to share with you in the first 101 level video, is that I'm not so much anymore a consultant or a coach. Occasionally I'll speak on it, but I'm back to being a student of human performance, learning from folks. So I listen a lot more now. I know it's hard for you to believe after listening to me for 30 hours, that the more I listen, the more I start marveling at some things. And so here's some things I marvel. I marvel at peak performances, especially those that somehow come out of nowhere, that surprises the performer or the athlete. I marvel at how there are spiritual dimensions and even mystical dimensions to human performance. It becomes an art and maybe becomes much more. I marvel at the rhythm of seemingly effortlessness of some performers. I marvel at something as simple as 10 yards away, one instinctively knows what foot you will plant to step up on a curb or rounding second base. We have such wisdom within our bodies. I marvel at the many subtle nuances and critical moments of performances. They're not linear. They have peaks and ebbs, and that's the fascination of them. The performances always change. I marvel at how the underdog persists and sometimes prevails. I marvel at how we respond to adversity. I marvel at our ability to kick it into another year. I marvel at both of having clarity and grace under pressure, under extreme and sustained pressure. I marvel at the depths and breadths of concentration. I marvel at how one can courageously overcome the fear, a slump, or even the yips. I marvel at how purposeful and resilient we can endure and prevail. Napoleon Hill, the great writer of the early 20th century, said this: whatever can be conceived and believed can be achieved. These are wise words that continue on in our performance areas. If you can conceive it and you can believe it, sooner or later you can achieve it. And I marvel at the purity of pure doing, without any thoughts, without any kind of isolation of things. I marvel at how some things you can do and do well. As we come to the end of this series called How to Perform at Your Best, I want you to feel free to come back to these videos whenever you need to, whenever you want to, and keep on developing your own formula, developing your own awareness of how to stay within yourself, how to play to your strengths, and what things you need to do to perform at your best, and along the way, to be your best. This is Tom Kubistant, wishing you a happy, prosperous, joyful journey.